Have you ever noticed how some people clap for you when you are struggling, but grow strangely silent when you finally succeed? How they celebrate your small wins, but feel uncomfortable when your life truly starts moving forward? How their smiles feel forced and their words feel lighter than before, as if your success has quietly changed something between you. Because the truth is this: for many people, your success feels like a personal attack even when you never intended it to be, not because they hate you as a person, but because your growth forces them to confront everything they avoided becoming, every dream they delayed, every risk they were too afraid to take. And when a human being is forced to face the uncomfortable distance between who they are and who they once hoped to be, that emotional gap turns into pain, and when pain is mixed with ego, it often turns into resentment instead of motivation. Which is why psychologists explain this reaction through something called upward comparison, where people measure themselves against someone who is doing better than them, and instead of feeling inspired, they feel exposed, smaller, replaceable. And suddenly your hard work becomes their emotional mirror, showing them what they didn't do, what they postponed, and what they settled for. And for people who are not ready to take responsibility for their own stagnation, it is easier to emotionally attack success than to emotionally rebuild themselves. So they begin to protect their ego by changing the story about you, telling themselves that you were lucky, that you had help, that you cheated, that it won't last, not because these things are true, but because believing them allows their self-image to survive without having to change. And this is where hatred begins to grow quietly, hidden behind jokes, behind silence, behind subtle disrespect and backhanded compliments. Because a second powerful force is also at play here: the scarcity mindset, the belief that success is limited and that if you win, someone else must lose. So instead of seeing your achievement as proof that it is possible for them too, they see it as proof that there is less opportunity left for them. And this turns life into a silent competition they never agreed to, but emotionally participate in every day. Which is why sometimes the people who change the most when you succeed are not strangers, but those closest to you. Not because they are evil, but because your growth disrupts the emotional contract you unconsciously signed together that said we will stay at the same level. And when you break that contract by improving your life, the relationship is forced to shift. And here lies the darkest truth beneath all of this. People really hate your success. They hate what your success forces them to feel about themselves. They feel left behind, inferior, exposed, replaceable, afraid of being forgotten. And fear that is never processed turns into hostility. Which is why you may notice that once you succeed, some people begin to downplay your achievements, question your methods, reduce your effort to luck, or disappear entirely from your life. Not because you hurt them directly, but because your existence now triggers emotional discomfort inside them. And this discomfort is their own unresolved conflict, not your wrongdoing, yet it will still be projected onto you all the same. Jealousy does not usually arrive screaming or threatening. It arrives smiling, shaking your hand, congratulating you, asking about your future plans, while quietly rewriting your story behind your back. And by the time you feel the emotional shift, the damage has already been done, because jealousy is not just envy, it is a complex emotional defense designed to protect a fragile ego from collapse. And the moment someone sees you succeed, their mind asks a dangerous question: why not me? And if they cannot answer that question with accountability and action, they answer it with excuses that soothe their self-worth, saying you had connections, you had money, you got lucky, anyone could do it, it won't last. And these explanations are not evaluations of your success. They are emotional sedatives for their insecurity, because the human ego is extremely sensitive to status loss. And success is one of the loudest public signals of status in society. So when you rise, even if you took nothing from anyone, Others may feel as if their identity has fallen. And when identity feels threatened, the brain activates defense mechanisms like gossip, mockery, passive aggression, silent competition, and emotional distancing. Not necessarily to destroy you, but to restore their own sense of superiority or emotional safety, which is why some people begin to sabotage successful individuals. Not directly through open conflict, but socially through doubt, minimizing credit, exaggerating mistakes, and spreading subtle negativity, all attempts to pull your image back down to a level that feels emotionally safe for them. And here is a truth most people fear to admit. Some people need you to remain small in order to feel big. Because your growth disrupts the hierarchy they were comfortable in. They liked being the smartest, the most successful, the most admired in the room, and when you evolve, their position feels threatened. So instead of evolving with you, they unconsciously try to pull you back. But what makes this dynamic truly dangerous is that many people experiencing jealousy genuinely believe they are being realistic, honest, or concerned, yet beneath these labels lies fear of losing relevance. Fear of being surpassed, fear of becoming invisible, and so your success turns into a personal identity crisis for them, forcing them to question their own life choices, their comfort, their delays, their unfulfilled potential. And because most people were never taught how to sit with these emotions, they turn that discomfort outward. And this is known in psychology as reactive devaluation, where people devalue something simply because it belongs to someone who triggers insecurity within them. And so your achievements are no longer judged on merit, but on how threatened they feel by your existence. And the most disturbing part is that jealousy rarely looks like hatred at first. It often looks like fake concern, constant unsolicited advice, subtle discouragement disguised as realism, and support that fades only when you truly start winning. And if you do not recognize these signs early, this silent emotional warfare can slowly drain your confidence, distort your perception, and pull your focus away from your purpose, without you ever realizing that the real battle was never with them, but with the version of themselves they are trying to protect. Nobody really warns you that success will test your relationships, that growth will create emotional distance, that elevation will sometimes feel like isolation. Because not everyone who was with you in struggle will be able to stand beside you in abundance. And this realization often arrives quietly through changed behavior, rather than dramatic goodbyes, through shorter conversations, colder responses, and support that slowly disappears. And at first you may blame yourself, wondering if you became arrogant or distant, when in reality what changed was not your character but your frequency. Because as you grow, your priorities shift, your problems evolve, your dreams expand, and you no longer emotionally live in the same world as everyone around you, which psychologists describe as identity divergence. When your inner identity grows faster than your social environment can adapt, causing emotional disconnect, even without conflict. And this is why many successful people feel misunderstood and emotionally alone, despite being surrounded by others, because they carry new responsibilities people cannot relate to, new fears they cannot explain, and new pressures they cannot openly share without being labeled as ungrateful or boastful. So they start performing strengths instead of receiving support. And when a human being performs long enough without being truly seen, loneliness moves inward and lives inside their success itself, which is why some people feel more alone at the peak of their achievements than they ever felt in their lowest moments, because they gained status but lost emotional mirrors, gained independence but lost safe places to be weak, and gained freedom but lost the comfort of being fully understood. Yet this painful phase also carries a hidden gift. Because success does not destroy relationships, it exposes them. It reveals who truly supports your growth and who only tolerated you when you were harmless. And while this exposure can feel brutal, it is also clarity in its purest form. And once you begin to understand this, you stop seeking validation from those who feel threatened by your progress. You stop oversharing your victories with people who cannot emotionally celebrate them. And you begin to build emotional boundaries, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. Learning that silence sometimes protects success better than explanation. And that approval from insecure minds always comes with emotional cost, so you detach, observe, rather than argue, and anchor your identity in purpose rather than praise, accepting that you will either be loved for staying small or resented for becoming more. But either way, someone will be uncomfortable, and growth requires you to choose which discomfort you are willing to live with. Because the ultimate psychological truth is that your success will always uncover hidden loyalties, silent rivalries, unspoken jealousies, and unexpected allies all at once. At first, the change is so subtle that you almost miss it. A delayed reply here, a colder tone there, fewer invitations, less excitement in their voice when you share good news. And because you still want to believe in the old version of the relationship, you explain it away as stress, as timing, as coincidence. But slowly, a different pattern begins to form. One that feels heavier, one that feels intentional. Because success does not always bring celebration. Sometimes it brings comparison, and comparison quietly turns into competition in the minds of people who never meant to compete with you. And when competition is born without consent, resentment soon follows, because now your progress is no longer neutral. It feels personal to them, as if your rise is somehow their emotional loss. And this is the moment when some people stop seeing you as a friend, a family member, or a partner in life, and start seeing you as a reminder of their own delayed dreams. And that reminder becomes unbearable to look at for too long. So, instead of adjusting their direction, they try to emotionally adjust you, through criticism, through sarcasm, through doubt planted like seeds in casual conversation. They begin to question your choices, your methods, your intentions, not because they truly understand your path, but because undermining your confidence gives temporary relief to their own insecurity. And this is where the attacks on your character begin, softly at first, disguised as concern or honest feedback, but slowly becoming sharper, colder, more public, because when people feel that they cannot match your growth, some of them try to reduce your worth instead, spreading half-truths, exaggerating your flaws, highlighting your mistakes, and ignoring every sacrifice you made to get where you are. And the most painful part is that these attacks often come from people who once celebrated you, people who once knew your struggles, your failures, your nights of uncertainty, yet now look at your success as if it erased everything you endured, as if your rise somehow invalidated their pain, and in their internal story, you become too proud, too different, too driven, too changed. When in reality, the only thing that changed is that you no longer fit into the same emotional box they placed you in. And for some people, it is safer to attack a person than to attack the regret living inside themselves. And so they begin to rewrite your identity in their minds, turning your discipline into arrogance, your boundaries into selfishness, your ambition into greed. Because if they can label you as bad, they no longer have to feel bad for staying the same. And this stage hurts more than silent distance, because now the rejection has a voice. And that voice often speaks in the language of misunderstanding, betrayal, and accusation. And you may find yourself trying to explain, trying to defend, trying to prove that you are still the same person you always were. But the truth is that when someone has emotionally decided to see you as the villain of their own story, no explanation will feel sufficient, because their perception is no longer built on reality. It is built on emotional survival. And here is where many people break, not because they failed, but because the cost of their success suddenly feels heavier than the reward, because losing people hurts more than losing money. Losing connection hurts more than losing comfort. And in this moment, you are faced with a powerful choice: to shrink yourself to win back emotional approval, or to stand still in your truth and allow the loss to complete itself. And those who choose to shrink often return to familiar relationships but leave their future behind, while those who endure the emotional storm of being misunderstood often lose people but keep themselves. And that is the price of becoming something new in a world that is most comfortable with you staying the same. After the distance, after the attacks, after the silent exits and broken expectations, something unexpected begins to happen inside you. Not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly, like a slow internal reorganization. Because the same success that once made you question your worth now begins to shape your emotional strength. And the same rejection that once made you feel abandoned now begins to teach you discernment. And over time, you realize that the most painful seasons of your rise were not meant to destroy you. They were meant to detach you from emotional dependence, from the need to be liked by everyone, from the belief that you needed universal approval to continue forward. And this is where the final psychological shift takes place, where you stop measuring your value based on how others respond to your growth, and begin to measure it based on how consistently you stay aligned with your purpose. And when this shift happens, something powerful changes in the dynamics around you as well. Because people who once resented your success begin to either fade completely from your life or slowly transform their hostility into distant respect. Not because you changed your behavior to please them, but because your consistency outlived their criticism. Your discipline outlasted their doubt, and your progress became undeniable. And while respect does not always come with closeness, it often comes with silence. A quiet acceptance that they cannot control your direction anymore. And at the same time, new people begin to enter your world. People who were never part of your early struggles, but resonate deeply with your current vision. People who do not feel threatened by your light because they are building their own. And for the first time, you experience connection that does not require shrinking, explanation, or emotional bargaining. And this is when you finally understand that the loneliness you once feared was not a punishment. It was a filtering process, separating emotional attachments from emotional alignment. And as you grow into this new level of awareness, you also learn to forgive without returning, to understand without re-entering, to release without reopening old wounds. And this is not bitterness, it is maturity. Because you realize that resentment from others was never a reflection of your failure. It was a reflection of unresolved pain within them, and instead of carrying that weight forward, you leave it where it belongs. Back in the version of your life you outgrew, and with this release comes a peaceful kind of strength. The strength of no longer needing to prove yourself, argue for your worth, or audition for acceptance, because you finally trust the process that shaped you. The nights of doubt, the seasons of isolation, the moments when success felt heavier than comfort. All of it now makes sense in a way it never did before, and you move forward with a quieter confidence, one that does not seek attention, but commands it naturally, one that does not demand respect, but attracts it over time. And you understand at last that success was never meant to be easy on your emotions. It was meant to refine your character, test your attachments, reveal hidden truths, and ultimately teach you the most important psychological lesson of all, that the greatest form of power is not rising above others, but rising above the need for others to validate your rise.